Julia Roberts, the hidden heartbreak, behind Hollywood's sweetheart. For decades, Julia Roberts has been the radiant queen of Hollywood, the dazzling smile, the undeniable charm, the timeless elegance. But behind the glitz and glamour, her world is unraveling. Her husband, Danny Modder, was spotted with another woman, and whispers of divorce are growing louder. As if that weren't enough, a shocking revelation has shaken her to the core. Her last name isn't even real. She was born Julia Mitchell, and beneath it all, the ghosts of her past refuse to rest. The trauma of her stepfather's abuse still haunts her, now taking a devastating toll on her health. At 56, friends say she's constantly in tears, and her children have grown distant. Despite her fame, despite her fortune, there are some things even Julia Roberts can't fix: her fractured family and her fading health. The making of a star. Julia Fiona Roberts was born on October 28, 1967, in Smyrna, Georgia, a quiet town just outside Atlanta. Acting was in her blood. Her parents, Walter Grady Roberts and Betty Lou Bredemus, were passionate performers who ran a small acting school. Among their students, Yolanda King, daughter of Martin Luther King Jr. As a token of gratitude, the King family paid the hospital bill for Julia's birth, a little-known connection that forever linked her to history. But despite the creativity in their home, life was never easy. Money was tight, and the pressure tore her parents apart. By the time Julia was 4, their marriage had crumbled. Her father remained a loving presence, but it was her mother who struggled to raise 3 children alone. Then came a devastating choice. In 1972, Betty Lou remarried, hoping for stability, but instead, she brought home a nightmare. Michael Motes, Julia's new stepfather, was cruel, abusive, and rarely employed. Fear ruled their household. Years later, Julia's older brother, actor Eric Roberts, described Motes as a freak who made their lives miserable. Even Julia, who rarely speaks about her painful past, made it clear she wants nothing to do with him. Her mother later admitted that marrying Motes was the worst mistake of her life. The damage, however, was already done. As if that weren't enough, tragedy struck in 1977. Julia was just 10 when her beloved father, Walter, lost his battle with throat cancer. He was only 44. His death shattered her, leaving behind a wound that never fully healed. School offered little escape. Instead of friends, Julia found bullies. Her signature wide smile, the one the world would later adore, was a source of ridicule. Classmates cruelly nicknamed her Toothy, mocking her every chance they got. But rather than break her, the bullying strengthened her. Years later, she became an advocate against it, using her own childhood pain to help others. Chasing a dream. At 18, Julia made a bold move: New York City. She arrived in 1985 with big dreams but little money. She signed with Click Modeling Agency to pay the bills. But modeling wasn't her true calling. Acting was. She juggled jobs, took classes, and auditioned relentlessly. Her first break came in 1986 with a small role in Crime Story, followed by a minor part in the 1987 film Firehouse. They weren't groundbreaking, but they were stepping stones. Then came 1988, and with it, Mystic Pizza, the film that put Julia Roberts on the map. She played Daisy Araujo, a rebellious young woman with a spark that critics couldn't ignore. Famed critic Roger Ebert declared her a major beauty with fierce energy and predicted she would be a star. He was right, but Julia was still a struggling actress. When Mystic Pizza hit theaters, she was working as a sales clerk at Ann Taylor. One day, she was selling clothes. The next, she was on Hollywood's radar, the role that changed everything. Then came Steel Magnolias. 1989. Julia played Shelby, a young bride battling diabetes, alongside legends like Sally Field, Dolly Parton, and Shirley MacLaine. The role required raw emotion, and Julia delivered. It wasn't easy. Director Herbert Ross was brutally tough on her, criticizing everything from her looks to her acting. But she persevered. The film was a hit, earning $96.8 million, and Julia won a Golden Globe. At just 22, she had her first Academy Award nomination. Then, in 1990, she landed the role that changed everything. Pretty Woman. Originally a dark, gritty drama, titled 3000, the film nearly didn't happen. The story had a tragic ending. Edward, Richard Gere, leaves Vivian, Julia, tossing money at her before driving away. But Disney saw potential. They reworked the script into a modern Cinderella story, giving it the fairy tale ending that audiences now love. When Pretty Woman hit theaters, it exploded. With a modest $14 million budget, no one expected much. But then, magic. The film grossed an astonishing $463 million worldwide. It outsold even My Big Fat Greek Wedding. Years later, cementing itself as one of the biggest romantic comedies of all time. Julia Roberts was now Hollywood royalty. She won another Golden Globe, scored another Oscar nomination, and became America's sweetheart. But behind the scenes, it wasn't all fairy tales and happy endings. Some of Pretty Woman's most iconic moments, completely unscripted. The famous scene where Edward snaps the jewelry box shut, making Vivian laugh, that was Richard Gere improvising. Julia's reaction was so genuine, the director kept it in. But filming wasn't all fun and games. Julia was so anxious about her romantic scenes with Gere that she broke out in hives. The famous bubble bath scene? A nightmare. The detergent used in the water stripped the dye from her hair, forcing the crew to recolor it overnight. The price of fame. From that moment on, Julia Roberts was unstoppable. My Best Friend's Wedding, Notting Hill, Erin Brockovich. Each film cemented her status as one of the most bankable stars in Hollywood. In 2001, she became the highest-paid actress in history, earning $20 million for Erin Brockovich, a role that finally won her an Oscar. But fame has a price, and now, at 56, Julia is facing a reality no amount of money can fix. Her marriage is crumbling, her health is deteriorating, and the wounds of her past still linger. She may be Hollywood's golden girl, but behind the camera, Julia Roberts is fighting a battle only few can see. Julia Roberts, Hollywood's unstoppable force. Even after Pretty Woman turned her into a global sensation, Julia Roberts' journey to the top wasn't without its struggles. Casting for the film had been a battle. Several big-name actresses turned it down before Roberts got the chance. Even Richard Gere wasn't convinced at first. But Julia, determined and charming as ever, slid him a handwritten note that simply read, "Please say yes." That was all it took. When the film premiered, Julia had no idea what was happening. She was away working on another project, unaware that Pretty Woman had raked in $1 million on opening weekend, a massive sum at the time. Adjusted for inflation, that's over $21 million today. Years later, Disney would celebrate it as their highest-grossing R-rated film, until 2024. With Pretty Woman, Julia Roberts became one of Hollywood's most bankable stars. The 1990s saw her dominate the box office with hits like My Best Friend's Wedding, 1997, and Notting Hill, 1999. But then, in 2000, she made history. She became the first actress ever to earn $20 million for a single film. That film was Erin Brockovich, and it wasn't just a financial milestone, it was a career-defining moment. At the time, male stars like Tom Cruise and Tom Hanks were pulling in $20 million per film, while women in Hollywood were paid significantly less. Julia Roberts changed that. Her portrayal of real-life activist Erin Brockovich, a single mother who took down a corporate giant, was one of the most powerful performances of her career. The film grossed $256 million worldwide on a $52 million budget, proving that a female-led movie could be just as successful as any blockbuster. She walked away with her first Academy Award for Best Actress, along with a BAFTA, a Golden Globe, and a SAG Award. But for Roberts, it wasn't about making a statement. In an interview, she explained, "I didn't feel soapboxy about it. I just thought, let's get real, let's be fair." Her record-breaking salary set a new Hollywood standard. Actresses after her would demand and receive higher pay, all because Julia Roberts proved they could, more than just a rom-com queen. While Julia was known for romantic comedies, she never wanted to be boxed in. In 1991, she took a risk with Sleeping with the Enemy, a psychological thriller that saw her playing a woman desperate to escape her abusive husband. Critics were divided, but audiences were hooked. The film grossed $175 million worldwide on a budget of less than $20 million. It was proof Julia Roberts wasn't just a rom-com star, she could dominate thrillers too. That same year, she starred in Dying Young, a tearjerker about a woman who falls for a terminally ill man. But this time, the magic didn't translate. Critics found it predictable, and while it wasn't a failure, it wasn't a massive hit either. Then came Hook, 1991, Steven Spielberg's star-studded reimagining of Peter Pan. Roberts landed the role of Tinker Bell, a part that should have been a dream. Instead, it turned into a nightmare. Production was grueling. The 76-day shoot stretched into 116, ballooning the budget from $48 million to over $80 million. Behind the scenes, tensions ran high. Crew members whispered about her attitude, dubbing her Tinker Hell. Even Spielberg later admitted their working relationship was strained, though he attributed it to personal struggles Roberts was facing at the time. When Hook wrapped, Roberts and Spielberg never worked together again. The 90s resurgence. By the mid-90s, Julia Roberts needed a comeback, and in 1997, she found it. My Best Friend's Wedding wasn't just another rom-com, it flipped the script. Instead of playing the perfect love interest, Roberts took on the role of Julianne Potter, a woman who realizes she's in love with her best friend, just days before his wedding. The film was a massive success, earning $299 million worldwide. Fans adored its fresh take on romance, and the soundtrack, featuring I Say a Little Prayer, became an instant classic. Roberts earned another Golden Globe nomination, cementing her status as the queen of romantic comedies. Then, in 2000, came the role that redefined her career, Erin Brockovich. This wasn't just another hit, it was a moment that changed Hollywood. The film was a box office powerhouse, grossing $256 million worldwide. Julia's performance was electric, raw, real, and unfiltered. It won her an Oscar, but her emotional acceptance speech came with one major slip. She forgot to thank the real Erin Brockovich, the legacy of a Hollywood icon. After Erin Brockovich, Julia Roberts was unstoppable. She signed on for Ocean's 11, 2001, pocketing $10 million, and then Mona Lisa Smile, 2003, where she shattered records again, this time earning $25 million, making her the highest-paid actress in history. By then, her films had grossed over $3.9 billion worldwide. A survey even found that 54% of Americans would watch any project she starred in. But behind the Hollywood magic, Julia Roberts has faced more than her share of heartbreak, failed relationships, personal losses, and now, at 56, the struggles of a life lived in the public eye. Her health is deteriorating, her family is fractured, and yet, through it all, she remains the Julia Roberts the world fell in love with, resilient, radiant, and unforgettable. Her story isn't just one of stardom, it's one of survival, and even now, in the face of it all, Julia Roberts is still standing. Julia Roberts, Love, Scandal, and the Price of Fame. While Erin Brockovich cemented her place in Hollywood history, Julia Roberts' personal life was just as dramatic as any of her on-screen roles. From whirlwind romances to shocking breakups, her love life became tabloid gold. The Kiefer Sutherland Scandal. In 1990, Roberts met Kiefer Sutherland on the set of Flatliners, and their chemistry was undeniable. Within months, they were engaged, planning a grand Hollywood wedding set for June 14, 1991, at the 20th Century Fox soundstage. Around 150 guests were invited, and the media was ready to cover what was expected to be a fairy tale romance. But just 3 days before the wedding, Roberts called it off. The breakup stunned everyone, especially Sutherland. Rumors swirled that he had cheated with a stripper named Amanda Rice. She later claimed that he called Roberts an insecure ice princess, only adding fuel to the fire. But the real shock wasn't just the cancelled wedding, it was what Roberts did next. On the very day she was supposed to walk down the aisle, Roberts was spotted in Ireland, on a getaway with Kiefer's best friend, Jason Patrick. For Sutherland, the heartbreak was unbearable, but what hurt more than losing Roberts was the betrayal by Patrick. He later called his former friend a snake, and admitted the experience had been painful. Yet years later, Sutherland softened. He publicly praised Roberts for realizing they were too young for marriage, admitting their relationship had been overwhelmed by fame. Still, the scandal was one of the biggest Hollywood breakups of the decade. A surprise wedding with Lyle Lovett. Just 2 years after her dramatic split from Sutherland, Roberts shocked everyone again. On June 27, 1993, after just 3 weeks of dating, she married country singer Lyle Lovett. The relationship was unexpected. She was Hollywood's glamorous golden girl. He was a quirky, Texas-born musician. Yet something clicked. Their wedding, much like their romance, was spontaneous, planned in only 72 hours, and held in a small church in Marion, Indiana. That same night, Lovett introduced Roberts as his wife during a concert. At first, they seemed blissfully happy. Lovett often dedicated songs to Roberts on stage, and they supported each other's careers. But reality quickly set in. Their schedules kept them apart. Roberts was constantly filming, and Lovett spent long stretches on the road. They barely saw each other, and their marriage struggled because of it. Rumors swirled that Roberts had grown close to Before Sunrise actor Ethan Hawke during this time, adding tension to an already fragile relationship. By March 1995, just 21 months after their wedding, they announced their divorce. But unlike her past breakups, this one had no scandal. Roberts called their split ridiculously amicable and insisted she had no regrets. Lovett echoed the sentiment, saying he still had deep respect for her. For once, a Julia Roberts breakup ended on a peaceful note. The affair that shocked Hollywood. By 2000, Roberts had been in a steady relationship with actor Benjamin Bratt for several years. But everything changed when she met cinematographer Daniel Moder on the set of Tpat, the Mexican Akyotatu. There was an instant connection. There was just one problem. Moder was married. At the time, he was still with makeup artist Vera Steinberg, and their separation was far from simple. Steinberg refused to sign the divorce papers for over a year, leading to intense tension between everyone involved. Roberts, frustrated by the delays, made a bold and controversial move. She was spotted wearing a homemade t-shirt with the words, "Aloe Vera." A not-so-subtle dig at Steinberg. The message was clear: Julia Roberts wanted Moda, and she wasn't willing to wait. The scandalous love triangle and a secret wedding. Julia Roberts's relationship with Daniel Moda didn't start quietly. In fact, it was one of the most controversial moments of her personal life. While filming The Mexican in 2000, Roberts met Moda, a talented cinematographer. The attraction was immediate, but there was one major problem. Moda was married to makeup artist Vera Steinberg. Their separation became a messy, drawn-out process, and Steinberg refused to sign the divorce papers for over a year. Roberts, impatient with the delays, took matters into her own hands. She stepped out in public wearing a homemade t-shirt with the words, "Aloe Vera," scrawled across it, a pointed message aimed directly at Steinberg. The stunt caused a media firestorm. Many criticized Roberts for being insensitive and cruel, accusing her of flaunting the affair. Eventually, Steinberg agreed to the divorce, reportedly after receiving a $200,000 settlement. Once Moda was legally free, he and Roberts wasted no time. When on July 4, 2002, they tied the knot in a secret midnight ceremony at her ranch in Taos, New Mexico. Even the guests had no idea they were attending a wedding until the couple exchanged vows under the stars. Despite its dramatic beginnings, Roberts and Moda's marriage has endured for over 2 decades. They welcomed twins Hazel and Phineas in 2004, followed by their son Henry in 2007. Unlike her past relationships, this one has remained largely private, though rumors have occasionally surfaced about disagreements, especially over where to live. Roberts has consistently shut them down, calling her marriage the best decision of my life. A shocking family secret. For most of her life, Julia Roberts believed she was a Roberts by blood. But in 2023, while appearing on PBS's Finding Your Roots with Dr. Henry Louis Gates Jr., she uncovered a family secret that changed everything. The investigation started with her great-grandfather, John Pendleton Roberts. Census records from Douglas County, Georgia, listed his father as Willis Roberts, but there was a major problem. Willis had died in 1864, and John wasn't born until 1878. That meant it was biologically impossible for Willis to be his father. To solve the mystery, researchers conducted double X tests using samples from Julia and her first cousin. The results led them to a completely different man, Henry MacDonald Mitchell Jr. Henry had lived just a few miles from Alexis, Julia's great-great-grandmother, Rhoda Suttle Roberts. At the time, he was already married with 6 children, but his widowed mother lived only a few houses away from Rhoda, making it easy for them to cross paths. The truth had been hidden for generations, until now. When Dr. Gates revealed the discovery, Roberts was stunned. "So, we're Mitchells?" she asked. "You're telling me I'm Julia Mitchell?" Despite the shock, she took the news with humor and grace. Though the revelation rewrote her family history, she still felt deeply connected to the Roberts name, the only one she had ever known. The discovery also changed how she saw her great-great-grandmother. Rhoda had been a Civil War widow, left to raise a family alone. With no birth certificate for John and no one questioning his parentage, the truth had remained buried for over a century. The Hook nightmare, Tinkerbell or Tinkerhell. At just 23 years old, Julia Roberts was one of Hollywood's biggest rising stars when she signed on to play Tinkerbell. In Hook, 1991, Steven Spielberg's fantasy adventure starring Robin Williams and Dustin Hoffman, On paper, the project seemed like a dream, but behind the scenes, it quickly turned into to Samir. At the time, Roberts was dealing with contemporary personal turmoil. Her engagement to Kalaurar Kiefer Sutherland had ended in a messy scandal, with tabloids speculating about infidelity on both sides. The relentless media attention followed her onto the Hook set, making an already challenging role even harder. Soon, crew members began calling her Tinker Hell. Rumors spread that she was difficult to work with, spending long hours in her trailer and showing up late to set. Spielberg, known for running an efficient, no-nonsense production, grew frustrated. At one point, there was even talk of Yuxi recasting her. But with the film's budget already soaring past $70 million, replacing her would have been a costly decision. Hook's production stretched from 76 to 116 days, partly due to delays linked to Roberts. However, other factors also played a role, including Dustin Hoffman's intense method acting and strict child labor laws that limited filming hours for young actors. Roberts's role as Tinkerbell Hachibayung was already challenging. The character was unpaid, often filmed alone, requiring her to act opposite special effects and green screens, a difficult task, especially for a young actress. Combined with her emotional struggles and the mounting production stress, it was clear that this was one of the most difficult shoots of her career. Despite the chaos behind the scenes, Hook went on to gross over $300 million worldwide. But Roberts and Spielberg never worked together again. When asked about the experience years later, Spielberg admitted that they had difficulties, but blamed it on the personal struggles Roberts was going through at the time. Tinkerbell troubles, the fallout with Spielberg. Unlike most of the Hook cast, Julia Roberts spent much of her time acting alone in front of a green screen. With no co-stars to interact with, her only real point of connection was director Steven Spielberg, and their already strained relationship only grew worse. Years later, Spielberg reflected on the experience, calling it an unfortunate time. Roberts took this as a personal betrayal. She had expected him to defend her against the negative rumors, but instead she felt abandoned. In interviews, she called him a turncoat and admitted the situation had been a hard lesson. Despite the behind-the-scenes drama, Hook was a box office success, grossing over $300 million worldwide. However, given its high budget, the film was seen as a modest, rather than a massive hit. While audiences embraced the movie, the tension between Roberts and Spielberg never faded. To this day, they have never worked together again. A spiritual awakening in India. Years later, Roberts's life took a surprising turn, not in Hollywood, but in India. In 2009, while filming Eat, Pray, Love in India, Roberts was introduced to Hinduism. She had been shooting at an ashram near Haryana when she first encountered Hindu philosophy. Something about it resonated deeply with her. She later revealed that a photograph of Loksu, Neem Karoli Baba, a Hindu guru, profoundly moved her, even though she had never met him. By Kauan, 2010, Roberts publicly identified as a practicing Hindu. This wasn't just a passing interest. She and her husband, Daniel Moder, embraced the faith, frequently visiting on temples with their children. They incorporated chanting and prayer into their daily lives, making Hinduism a central part of their family's spiritual journey. Her commitment even influenced her career. She named her production company Red Om Films, a reference to the sacred sound Om. She also expressed admiration for Hindu festivals like Diwali, and even considered buying property in India, particularly in holy cities like Haridwar and Varanasi. A return to the big screen, Wonder, and Ticket to Paradise. Even after decades in Hollywood, Roberts continues to find new ways to captivate audiences. In 2017, she starred in Wonder, a heartfelt drama based on R.J. Palacio's best-selling novel. The film tells the story of Augie Pullman, a young boy with Treacher-Collins syndrome, who struggles to fit in at school. Roberts played his mother, Isabel, a fiercely loving woman who stands by her son no matter what. Critics praised her performance, calling it warm and deeply moving. The film became a box office hit, earning $305.9 million worldwide on a $20 million budget. It also scored an impressive 86% critic rating and a 88% audience score.